but when I think what must personally is that you must care for each player as a person first before you care for them as an athlete second. Now, deep down, I think all players want to do well. I really do want to. I think that as they show up, and all of us as adults, are we usually our own worst critic, right? We wake up in the morning, our hair's not right, our clothes aren't right. We fail to do something as well as we think we could do it. Well, our players are just the same, except they don't have the adult experience and discipline to overcome that. And some athletes, despite their efforts, and we all have these athletes, may not possess the athletic skills to win on the scoreboard, but boy, do they possess an effort to win on the effort scale, right? We know those players, boys, and sometimes those players that maybe are not gifted as athletically as some of your other players, they're just a joy to have on the team. When you drain tanks, you take away sometimes that individual spark that already that person is saying, I can do this, or maybe I'm not good enough and I can't do this, which depletes what we call their emotional intelligence. And it's a fragile balance to make sure each athlete is praised on their efforts. But also, let me ask you this, overpraising may give an athlete and their teammates a false sense of accomplishment, right? They know when we're sincere. It means that kids can see through your fake praise, and sometimes it will even turn you off. You're gonna want to make sure, and I'm getting to that slide, Kelly, and I'm watching that also. Okay. You know what? Individuals and their teammates know when someone is trying hard. They can see that and making effort. Too much praise just comes off of insincere. So now we're going to do a role play here, and I'm going to come up and since we're a little league coaches out here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up here and I'm going to swing at a pitch. Okay, I'm a batter. I'm nervous. I bat in the middle of your lineup, maybe about 6. I'm not the best hitter on your team, but you know that I can maybe make some contact. So what we're going to do is we're going to react to my strikeout. I'm going to swing and miss. And what I want all you coaches to do is I want everybody to stand up, and when I swing and miss, I want you to give me some verbal drainers. Well, thank you, Ruben, for standing up. And I'm gonna. Here comes the pitch, and I swing as best I can, but I miss, and boy, that's strike 3. Give me some verbal drainers.
What were you thinking? That was horrible.
You can do better than that.
Oh man, and that's what they're probably thinking, right? Now, here's what I'm going to do. Give me some nonverbal drainers when I swing and miss. We as coaches, I don't think we realize that we wear our emotions on our sleeves. And who is the first person that athlete turns to when they don't live up to their or their team's expectations? Who are they going to turn to, Ruben, when they strike out?
I would say either to their coaches or in some cases to their parents.
Their parents. And what we talked about, and I'm not sure if it's either earlier or later in this workshop, is our pre-team meeting and how we can bring our parents on board and creating a culture on how we're going to do things on this team. And so here I go. I'm going to swing and I'm going to miss. You're going to give me some non-verbal drainers. And the pitch, swing. Oh, man. Oh. Let me tell you, when I look at you coaches and you do that to me, I have no confidence next time I'm going up there. Now, okay, here we go. I want you to give me some verbal fillers, okay? I'm up there, man on third, swing and a miss. Oh, man.
Way to be aggressive.
Way to take the swing. Way to take the swing.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, now give me some nonverbal fillers. Okay, here we go. One more time. How are you going to react with your body language when I swing and miss? Now remember, when we're doing this, life lessons, right? Life lessons. What are they going to see when, and how are they going to learn to react? Because what you teach these young men and women, they're going to shadow your attitude and the way you react when maybe somebody on the team or as they grow older and somebody fails in an effort, and they are going to be able to either be a tank filler or a tank drainer. So here we go. Nonverbal fillers. When I swing and miss, and swing and miss. Thank you. Very good job. You can have a seat. Thanks, Ruben. Now, how did you guys feel about that? Tell me. Give me some feedback. How did you feel when you were draining my tank?
I could see it in your face, how discouraged it made you.
Right. Do you think that by draining my tank, that makes me a better athlete?
No.
No, not at all, right? Now, tell me, coaches, what was easier? Was it easier to drain my tank or fill my tank?
Mm-hmm.
Drain.
Drain your tank. And why do you think that is?
Well, for one, you had swung and missed, so you had failed on your attempt, and so I think naturally that leads us to the tank drainers.
Well, because that might be that's a good point, Ruben. Thank you for sharing. We have to, going through this workshop, we have to understand that we're trying to change our mindset. That every athlete wants to give us the best effort. And in order to get that best effort, maybe we don't win on the scoreboard at that moment, but they will continue to give us their best efforts because we are encouraging and positive, and therefore eventually we win on the scoreboard because our athletes and our players are enthusiastic and want to give us all their effort. Now, also, in order when you praise to be feeling, you must strive to make it truthful and specific. Okay, so you might say, that was a great swing, we'll get him next time. Okay, instead of saying, man, if you could have just swung a little bit harder, or if you would have just kept your head down. Now, let me ask you guys another question. What balance of praise and correction produces the best results? What do you think? How many times should we praise and how many times should we correct?
50-50?
50-50, that's a good idea.
I think it should be a little more on the praise. Maybe like 2 to 1, 3 to 1, something like that.
Well, let me tell you, PCA has been around a long time, and we've done a lot of extensive research. We've done research with school counselors, with relationship counselors. We've done research with employment professionals and coaching experts, some of who you've seen early on in the presentation. And we have created what we call the magic ratio. And that magic ratio is 5 fillers to 1 correction. And let me explain what that means. And let me explain what it doesn't mean. So what we want to do is start our day off with a good tone. Maybe it might be as simple as, thanks for showing up today, and I'm really glad to have you here. And through your time, maybe it's an hour and a half practice or a 2-hour game, you find that magic ratio 5 to 1, and you start thinking about, have I filled this athlete's tank today? Now, this is what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean that, does that mean 20 minutes?
Yeah, that's your 15. But I want you to finish your thought, so go ahead.
Okay, I just have a couple more.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that Cameron shows up for practice. Cameron, you're such a great athlete, 1. You look great today, 2. Boy, I tell you what, you're going to be leading us today, and you're going to be getting on base, 3. And that doesn't mean 5 in a row. That just means interspersed through your time. Now, let me tell you about some tools and ideas to help you fill e-tanks. And maybe, I know I'm short on time, Ruben and Kelly, but I would ask, coaches, can you give me some ideas that maybe would help fill your athletes' e-tanks? And then I would go through the 9. Model and teach the importance of filling. Be a role model. If you are positive out there, your athletes will be positive. Use the buddy system. You might want to, for one day, take all your players, pair them up and say, Today, I want each of you to fill your e-tanks for each other. Develop player coaches, which means asking for input rather than telling, which means you're also including them in respecting their opinion. Ask them, hey, this is their best defense. What do you think we should do when they line up like this? We might have the undercover player of the day and tell other coaches that, you know what, today Cooper is going to be our undercover player, and we are really going to praise him because in the last couple of practices, we noticed that he's having some issues, varying the pace when emotions are low, giving appropriate kid-friendly feedback, and giving the criticism sandwich. Kelly, I really like the way that you swung at that pitch. If you keep your chin tucked on your front shoulder, it'll keep your eyes down on the ball. And I just want to say, great job. Now, to end this part of our workshop, I want to say that, a great way is very important to end on a high note. After your practice or a game, we call it a winner's circle, and it's a great way to debrief after a win or a loss. Your players are emotionally high. They might be sensitive to your remarks, so you know what? You want to make sure they count. This is a time to listen to your players. They're exhausted. They may tend to be forthright and honest about their performance and the team's performance. So ask for their feedback and then mirror your players' comments to give them credibility. So let me say, Ruben, you're saying that, you know what, we sort of lost some energy at the fourth quarter and therefore we didn't play as hard. Remember, your players don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? Win or lose, tell them how proud you are to be their coach, end with something inspirational, and give your players enthusiasm at the end of the day that they want to come back.
Nice job. Nice job.
So I tend to get a little diarrhea at the mouth when I start talking. And
I have the same condition, Steve. I understand. Okay, hold on one second. All right. I thought that was fantastic. How do you feel, Steve? How'd you feel about that?
I feel good that, Ruben and I talked about 2 months ago, and I read through the book a couple of times, and I watched the videos, and I began to absorb the PCA philosophy. And then, Kelly, going through your workshops helps reinforce that. Mm-hmm. And then the last couple of days trying to prepare for this, mm-hmm. It starts to become more clear, and it starts to become easier to remember. And I think, I've been in training for a long time, and we don't want people to be PowerPoint readers. Mm-hmm. So if we understand the content, like I said earlier, the PowerPoint slide just gives us a reminder mm-hmm. and guides us through the course. And if we understand the material, if we're comfortable in front of an audience, then I think things will flow really well.
Absolutely, and I like the way you did that. I like the way you weren't, so dependent on the slides. And it is. I really believe, as you said, some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, and if you're giving them a lot of just all auditory without giving them something visual to see, it's difficult for everybody to learn. I thought you did a nice job with that.
Thank you.
A very nice job. Ruben, would you like to start, or would you like me to start giving some feedback?
Sure. I'll start. And I'll start with a question. Steve, you did a lot of wonderful things as a trainer, but I want to start with a question about a comment you made. You said that sometimes you get diarrhea of the mouth, and I think we all have to keep an eye on that. So what can you do to manage that? What are some things you can do so that as you continue to be a PCA trainer, you're not making that critique of yourself after every workshop?
I just think as I would continue to give the workshop presentation and I fine tune it and find areas where I can emphasize and know areas where I don't have to talk so much. I can read my audience, and if they're getting it or they're ready to move on, then I can move on. And I just think having that running clock in my head, knowing what the time is at the point of the slide, knowing that I have to move on, and having that ability to just stop something and move on to the next subject or the next area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. I think I agree. I think it's knowing and being comfortable enough with the content and reading your group to know, when you need to give a little more detail and when you don't, when you can just keep moving.
Right.
Say one thing about that too, Ruben.
Yeah.
And Ruben knows me well. I am a very fast talker, and I do tend to give way more information than I should. And I think over the years, what I've learned is it's okay to let them want more, because we have other opportunities, and we also are giving them a fantastic resource to go home with.
Right.
So instead of giving them all the eggs in one basket, it's okay to point things out and not have to go into super detail about everything, and it makes the audience actually hungry for more information, which is an okay way to leave them.
Right, and I think that, and Ruben, I maybe I can use the term I tend to run on instead of diarrhea of the mouth, right? But I think it's because we have so much passion for what we're teaching, and we just really want to get across to these people how powerful this is, and because we've experienced the good and the bad coaches and how much of an impact, and now we just personally, I just want to make sure that when they leave, that they're inspired, and and they go home and they think about it before they go to bed, and they think about it before the practice of the next day, and they think, okay, I'm going to fill some tanks when my kids show up today. So I just want to, because we all have sons and daughters that have played for coaches, and you just want it to be a great experience.
Yeah, well, Steve, right at the top of the strengths of your presentation, your passion about this, and even intensity. You have an intensity about it. It comes through loud and clear, and your desire to inspire and motivate your group. That's wonderful. More info does not necessarily equal more inspiration. More info does not necessarily equal more learning and understanding.
Okay.
There's a balance, and there's you said it yourself. There's a time to elaborate and give a little more detail and to stick with things, and then there's a time to say it quickly and move on. So the very first thing I noticed was your shift. And our best trainers have this ability. When it was time to start presenting, there was a shift. You were on.
We're on.
There was, it's very tangible and noticeable with you, Steve, that okay, he's going into trainer mode, and that's good. That's a good thing. I think that let's see. I like the fact that during your opening, you started at 7:08 a.m. Pacific time, and at 7:09 a.m. you had asked us a question. You had us writing down in our book our response, and then you immediately had us, after that, share with a partner. So very quickly you pulled us in and got us involved, engaged, talking to one another. I really like how you did that. With your opening, which went a little more than 5 minutes,
right?
I think one way to break that up and to even shorten it is, and maybe you're thinking about doing this already, but I don't want to take it for granted, is the information about your own coaching background, some of the resume points, which are relevant, and you want the group to know that, so that you enter the room with some credibility, and they know that you've been through and you've lived what they're going to live this season. I think if you make a lot of that part of the introduction that you provide to whoever's going to introduce you, it shortens your piece, and and you're gonna have the floor for an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. So letting the introducer say those things about you, I think breaks it up, and it also it sounds like you're not talking about yourself right off the bat to start the workshop.
Right.
Yeah. So let me see.
And that's one of the things, that's why I went on like that, trying to not only build credibility, but trying to make a connection. Because I was one of those coaches, it was 6 o'clock and I'm tired and I'm hungry and I really don't want to be here. Just another coaching workshop. I've had a long day at work and I want to get the games on and I want to get home. And who's this guy standing up in front of me? I thank you for your feedback. I'm just trying to build a connection with these guys so that I'm one of them, but yet I have the experience and I'm here to help them, not to lecture them.
Yep. And you definitely made that point too, that we're in this together. We're going to go through this together. Mm-hmm. That's your way of saying, hey, I'm not going to be here lecturing to you for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. We're going to explore some things together. So I like that. In terms of making the connection with the group, I think them knowing your background helps with the connection. And there's a balance there between letting them know that you've walked in their shoes and not coming across like, first thing I want to do is tell you about me. Let's talk about me.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, okay, a few more things, Kelly, and then I'll turn it over to you.
Okay.
Some of the other strengths, I like when you have us do the exercise where we give you feedback and react, that you have us stand up, because oftentimes we are standing up when we're coaching. Even in sports where the coach might not be standing up, at this point in the workshop, you've been going for a while, mm-hmm. and it's one simple way to get people up and out of their seats.
Right.
So I really like the fact that you had us stand up, and that's why I wanted to reward you by following your instructions and standing up. So I like the fact that when you talked about the magic ratio, that you clarified that it's a guideline over the course of time, not every moment of coaching. I think that's an important clarification to make, because coaches sometimes misunderstand that. I like your use of the word. This is the first time I've heard it, undercover player of the day, mm-hmm. Because that's an accurate. It's accurate, and that it is meant to be undercover. That only the coaches know, what we're doing here with this. I really like that. I like the fact that you shared tools with us, and again, that's a place where maybe you don't have to go through all 9. I think turn to page. Whatever in your book, you'll see that there's 9 tools to help you be an emotional tank filling coach. I'm not going to go through them all with you. You can read through them in detail here, but let me highlight these 2 or 3.
Right.
Okay, because that way they know they're all there, and again, they're not going to learn 9 tools in 2 or 3 minutes. They're not.
Right.
You want them to know where to go to learn these tools. So, and then the last thing I want to say, Steve, is it's difficult when you have a 2-person audience and when it's a mock situation like this. I would encourage you to stay with your audience. You asked us a lot of questions. You sprinkled in a lot of questions during your presentation. Kelly and I both like that. You kept pulling us back in, and I would say stay with your audience responses longer. Thank you, Kelly. Who else? Ruben. Thank you, Ruben. And again, you only had 2, but in a mock situation like this, the next time you do a mock, don't treat it like there's 2 of us. Treat it like there's 20 of us. Mm-hmm. Who else? Mm-hmm. Take 3 or 4, especially when it's the short responses that you're asking for. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense, Steve?
And Ruben, the only reason why I cut you off on that is because I knew I was under the time limit here, so that's why I wasn't playing out the replies any longer. I wanted to make sure I got through the material in time, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
On that same note, though, Steve, on that note right there, when you're doing a workshop, time for audience responses is your time. So one of the things that a lot of trainers do is they practice at home and they go through it, blah, 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 and they don't allow for time for the audience responses. And then you go out to, I've done this, and then you go out to do a workshop and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe 25 minutes went by already, but the audience had so many great things to say, and you want to give them a chance to talk. So you actually have to build that in mentally, the time to do that into your workshop. Right.
Okay. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm. All right. Is that good for you, Ruben?
Yeah.
All right. I took 3 pages of notes, and I'm just looking back through here because I always do pluses. I do pluses for things I loved and minuses, and I do stars and hearts for things I really loved. And I'm having trouble finding enough minuses to tell you. I mean, I really have a ton of things. Talk about stealing one-liners. I mean, I was writing down things left and right. And again, right off the bat, your passion, the desire to get this message across was so obvious. You had me wanting to hear you just because of the passion in your voice. Again, that is fantastic. One of the things that might be a good suggestion that someone suggested to me, because I think I have that same kind of like in the beginning, is to vary the enthusiasm in your voice when you get to something else, just to make it more. It's almost like an acting technique, but it's something to keep when you get into magic ratio. Dial down the intensity, take a little break, and just go about it with a totally different cadence to your voice, and that alone can bring the audience in, going, wow, he's not, he's just calmly talking, and I can understand that better now. So that's a suggestion that I had.
Thank you.
I thought, again, agreed with Ruben. Within the first 2 minutes, you pulled us in. You had us talking. Again, the one thing that I noticed that you did do was waiting for the audience's response is important, just in your head, because, Ruben gave a response, and then you were like, yeah, what about in baseball? Like you were ready to give the audience the answer, ready and waiting for an answer. And wait time is also very important. Something Ruben does really well is wait for the audience response, and then follow up with an audience's answer, which is it's a neat tactic to do.
Sometimes silence is golden.
It is.
And
yep.
What I can't do on the video screen here, but you can do with an audience, is read the eyes.
Yeah.
And the nonverbal signals that your audience gives you. And there might be some coaches that are looking like they want to say something, but they're hesitant, and you can read their body language. And so ask them, maybe walk over and ask them, what do you think?
Yep. And you also have to give permission to answer. I was just doing a workshop on Saturday at the National Soccer Convention. There were 180 coaches. The first question I put out there, no one answered. Not one hand went up. And I'm
comfortable.
Oh my gosh. But it's because there's too much pressure. There's too many people. So when okay, how about somebody from this table right here? I'd love to hear an answer from you. I actually gave that table permission that if there's only 6 of you, it makes it a smaller group, and then I've got a lot more participation. So I think bigger groups, people are more hesitant to volunteer. Some of the hearts, the things I absolutely loved. I loved the passion in your voice when you were talking about how your kids are grown, they're in college, you wish you could go back and change some of the things you did, because that's feeling, and feeling is something that the audience can relate to. And if I was a young coach with young players, I would go, wow, you know what? I have that chance right now. He wishes he had it. So I thought that was really powerful. I love the way you put that down. I like the way you referenced the book. I thought that was great, the way you did that. I also liked, and I've never heard it done before, was kind of relating the E-tank to nutrition level, because you wouldn't send an athlete out on the field if it wasn't fed a good meal, if he wasn't fed a good meal and his tank was filled, his stomach tank. I thought that was a really neat analogy, because that's so simple to understand, but yet you try to coach athletes that have low tanks emotionally.
And I think we'll have a chance to intersperse our personal stories. Is when I coached 10 years of high school football, it was in a lower income community. One time a kid was having a hard day at practice, and I walked over and I said, hey, Craig, what'd you have to eat today? And he says, an Eggo. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, an Eggo waffle. And I said, all day? He goes, yeah. I said, did you have any butter or syrup on it or a glass of milk? No. I had one Eggo waffle for the day. And we're asking them to come practice out in the heat with pads on.
Yep.
And you wonder why.
Yeah. It was a great way to make it real. I thought that was very good. One of the things I loved how you were talking a lot about us and who drains and fills my tanks. We have a whole positive motivation workshop now, and that's what we focus on. Who's draining and who's filling your tanks throughout the day. The one area that I would have wanted you to go one step further was to ask who drains and fills the athletes that you're coaching. Who drains and fills their tanks all day long? And you'll get some interesting answers for that as well. I love the quote, the athletes have to know you care before they care how much you know. I used that a couple times. I love that. I liked the stress of verbals and nonverbals. I think that's a really crucial point to tank filling, and I think you did spend enough time reinforcing that without going overboard. I thought that was a great activity. But on top of that, when you said, how did you feel when you drained my tank? I love feeling words because that brings out passion, and that brings out, that makes it real for me. I was never asked the question, wow, I might yell at a player that missed a swing, but I never thought about how that feels. And then even more, the question that you said, did draining my tank make me a better athlete? I just thought that was a really powerful question that I'm going to steal and use again because I think that's important. We as coaches, we're trying to make them better athletes. But when I drained your tank, that's not going to make you a better athlete. I know that 100% of the time. So I thought that was great. I also like the way that instead of just giving the term magic ratio right away, you made it very conversational. What's the balance of praise and correction that will give you the best results? You were results-oriented and performance-oriented, which I think is really the bottom line of what we're trying to do. So I just love the way you phrase that. Balance of praise and correction to get good results out of your athlete. A lot of times we say, okay, here's something we coined, the magic ratio. And that's more like, vocabulary terms. I like the way you made it real for them. And the way you said, too, PCA's been around for a long time. We've done a lot of research. That gives credibility to the magic ratio term. So the whole way you framed that, I thought was excellent.
Kelly, let me say something about PCA's done a lot of research.
Yes.
PCA has not done a lot of research.
Okay.
PCA is aware of a lot of research, and we have wonderful researchers, world-class researchers on our National Advisory Board, but PCA has not actually done the research. Okay, so I think
okay, yeah.
We don't conduct the studies ourselves.
Yeah, right. That's a good point to bring up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing again with what Ruben said, I agree. Get them in the books. The E-Tank is probably one of the strongest, easiest tools to share because they're easy, they work, but they're not listed on a PowerPoint slide. So it's a great way, again, as Ruben said, there are 9 tools, and they're on page 34. I'm going to just tell 2 of them that I like to use on my team, and later on in the workshop, we're going to get into some scenarios where I'm going to highlight some more tools. But for right now, let me just tell you about 2 that I love to use with my athletes. Because when you get to the scenario menu, you are going to have a chance to bullet point a few other tools. So I think that's great. Yeah, at that point, I put down too much. TMI is what I put down. You were giving us too much information at once, and I wasn't able to comprehend it. The other thing, too, I love how you ended on a high point. Win or lose, tell them you're proud of them. But I think one more step above that, when you're ending on a high note, why do we want to end on a high note? You were giving it all great reasons on why we want to fill the tanks, why it's better for the kids, but it also, bottom line is, it will help them to perform better. And I always end with that because everybody knows it's great to fill tanks. Everybody knows it makes kids feel better. But will it make them better on the field or in the court? That's what we want. So I think just wrapping it up with that ending is, yeah, and bottom line is you'll get better performance out of your athletes because that's what we're looking for. And they'll be
back to practice the next day.
Yeah, exactly, which I liked. But I thought you did a great job. I'm excited to watch you next week do it from start to end again. So
I want to say I've had a couple of great role models. Both of you, thank you so much. No, really, I watched Ruben's videos and I watched Kelly the last 6 weeks, and I've really learned a lot. And you guys have done a great job in the training. It's been really exciting, and I look forward to the next steps. So that's my question: is next week do we present the entire course, or do we present this session again, this principle?
Now we actually are not going to do the whole workshop yet. Next week is sort of the final exam where you would do very similar to what you did today. But I'm going to stop you like when you get to your 5-minute introduction and then start in the principal, I'm going to stop you there. And then we're going to give you 5 minutes of feedback, and it's going to be with Ruben, myself, Eric Eisendrath. And it's not going to be the type of thing where you stop and ask questions. You know, it's going to be pretty much like you were presenting to an audience, which you did very close to today. Now, it's up to you whether you want to try a different principle because you've already gotten feedback on this principle, or you'd like to try this one again. Ruben, I don't know if you have a stronger opinion about that than I do. But some people have chosen to do a different principle because they already practiced this one, and they want to practice a different one. But that's totally up to you.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you guys gave me some great feedback. Thank you very much. I think if I did the same principle again, it would almost be like cheating because it'd be like doing it all over again. So I'll choose probably honoring the game.
Okay.
And do that for you next week.
Okay. It's not really cheating. I mean, it's neat to see differences from the first time to the second time too. So, you know, but then the next step after that would be where you would do an entire workshop for a live audience in Sacramento. So we would get some board members, some trainers, probably the partner manager in Sacramento, executive directors together for you to do an entire workshop live. That would be what we'd like to see happen next.
Okay.
All right. So I will put out I'll probably do it today. The end of the day today, I'll put out like a schedule, and then you pick a time that works for you next week, and we'll coordinate that.
Okay, wonderful.
All right.
Steve, thanks for all your preparation, and thanks